I wanted to get straight to the point about some of the sort of green issues and some obvious questions that I think are probably in everybody's mind right now, and that we can kind of get over with right up front. And the first one is, why did the New York Times decide to do a new building? And that really has its genesis deep in the Times' own business strategy. I'm not sure if you recall, but the Times used to all be in black and white, the old gray lady we used to call her. And in about 1992, we started printing in color for some Sunday editions. And then in 1997, on October 15th to be precise, we switched the whole newspaper to color. And that was accomplished by moving the presses to the suburbs in Edison, New Jersey, and College Point, Queens, where we built 2 new plants to print the paper in color because we couldn't fit the presses into the basement of 43rd Street. 43rd Street was originally built as a printing factory, and it's a really skookum building with about 250 pounds per square foot live load capability. It's really, like I said, a printing factory, and all the presses were in the basement. And we used to print over 1 million copies a day and ship them out of there. And I'm sure many of you remember trying to walk by or down 43rd Street in the theater district in those days, and constantly being accosted by this industrial process in the middle of a great city. But once that process ended, we had the opportunity to change some of the things in our building, specifically a lot of the mechanical and electrical systems. One of the things we couldn't do when the presses were operating there was to take a lot of risk with electrical and mechanical systems. We could never jeopardize the publishing of the newspaper. That was our primary focus in that building, and one that we held very closely at all times. So if you go to the basement today, you will find knife switches that are running electricity through the building that were built in 1923. And the way we maintain that is we remember, we used to run 10 presses in there, so the load in the building used to be almost 10 megawatts. So we have a little bit extra capacity compared to what we use now. So we've been literally cannibalizing the old switchboards for parts to keep us going. It was a great opportunity for us to change our systems, and it was also a unique opportunity for us to change the way we work. And one of the things we did was a newsroom renovation. In around 1997, we renovated 2 floors, 3 and 4, for the newsroom. And we removed all the offices from the window wall, which was the beginnings of our standard, and we established a footprint for each workstation, which is about 50 square feet. So this renovation was a great success. However, it was extremely expensive, extremely expensive. And the reason for that was, once again, we couldn't take any risk with the newspaper. We had to do a lot of work on overtime. We had to build redundant systems so that if we broke something, we would have a switch over right away. The daily newspaper is a very short time in which you can actually fix stuff, so we had to build these redundancies in. Plus, folks had to work there, so there had to be a minimization of disruption during the day. But like I said, it proved to be so expensive that we said, well, hey, with those numbers, maybe we can build a new building. So we began the process of looking around for different sites. And there's a couple of other reasons that we did that. One was that the building was too small for us. We would have to take more people out to achieve the standard of 50 square feet per person per workstation. So if you can imagine that, we would have had to take about 300 people out of the building and then build out to the standard, so it would be more dispersed. And we'd probably be under construction for about 10 years. So with all of those things kind of floating around, we started the search for a new site. This particular site at 8th Avenue and 41st Street was brought to our attention by the famous real estate broker, Marianne Todd, who's now the vice chairman at Senior Richard Ellison, who's worked with us for a long time. And the problem with the site, of course, was that it was a 42nd Street development project site, but that also had some advantages to it. And one of those was the assemblage process. So if we were willing to wait and work through all of the details and the demanding process to actually do a deal with them, then they would be able to assemble the site for us. The reason that this site became attractive, in spite of all of the brain damage that we would have to suffer to get it, was that it was a big site. It was 2 acres just off Times Square. And that would allow us to place the newsroom on as few floors as possible. The newsroom is a very sort of collaborative beehive where people are constantly having conversations and moving around and yelling across the room and stuff like this. You know, it's not quite the same as a trading floor. It's a different sort of work, but it's a similar sort of proximity that people wanted. And to do that, for example, in the Times Square Tower, which Boston Properties has recently opened in Times Square, would have taken over 17 floors. So the newsroom spread out on 17 floors was not an acceptable solution. They had to be spread out on as few floors as possible, so we did it on three floors for the major newsroom departments, one for magazine and one for art department. So that was an important program requirement for us, which is why this site became very, very, very valuable or very interesting to us. We joined up with Ford City Radnor Companies, our development partner, who have been really a great partner for us. Just why this particular partner? We went through a selection process like everybody does. We interviewed all the big developers in town. But Ford City had the unique experience of having built in Times Square through the 42nd Street development project already. Plus, they had a track record of execution in the city that was literally unparalleled to any other commercial developer. Prior to our building, they had completed over 10 million square feet in the last 10 years, and there was nobody in the city that came even close, not even close. So they were an obvious choice gradually as it became clear about different people's capabilities, and they've been a great partner for us in terms of their ability to execute. Why this architect? We had a competition, and I think many of you remember that competition. It was actually published in the Times to great fanfare and controversy. But when we started that process, we decided that we weren't going to have a more traditional competition. And the reason for that was that we didn't want to have a situation where an inexperienced architect would win a blind competition that we'd have to work really hard to come up with a solution for how we're going to execute this thing. We wanted to work with proven names who had skyscraper or tall building experience, and to put this together in a way that would be a really important building for New York City. Once again, another unique opportunity to change the way things are done. In the competition, Renzo and his team really shone in terms of their style and their interpretation around light. Now, if anybody's been to 43rd Street, it's an old building, and it's got these punch windows and a masonry facade, and it's kind of dark and dingy, and the whole concept of light really, really appealed to us. And this is something that Renzo talked about over and over again. We weren't sure how it was going to work with the ceramic rods, and if you like, I can tell you that story some other time. But we really appreciated his sensibilities, his style, his approach to design, and his approach to constructability. We've had very, very good cooperation from Renzo and the team and FX Fowl, the associate architects, in terms of finding ways to execute the design in the most cost-effective manner. And last but not least, why not lead? This is a tough subject for me at this Green Towers panel. It's maybe hard for you to believe this, but I've been working on this job since September of 1999. We looked at the idea of doing a LEED building, and the part that started to push us away from it was the nature of the LEED points, where they're very, very highly dispersed against a whole bunch of different types of criteria: bicycle parking, electric car chargers, brownfields reuse, water retention. And so it's very much an omnibus for the members of the Green Building Council to have developed a guideline for somebody who's looking for a way to figure out how to do a green building. And the way we decided to approach this, that, well, we don't really want to waste a lot of resources trying to figure out where we're going to put 1,500 bicycle parking spots in the showers. So let's focus our resources on the items that really, really matter to us. And the things that really matter to us are, one, making a really great place for people at the New York Times to come to work, a place where they're proud of, and a place where they can do their best work without any sorts of distractions coming from the building. And second of all, we knew that our largest cost outside of labor to run this building is energy. And the energy price during the time that I was involved in building operations had consistently gone up almost every year. So if there was any way for us to save energy, we were going to take a look at it within the context of this design and see if we could find a way to maximize our savings. And I think some of my colleagues here on the panel will talk about those details and those systems, and I'll leave it up to them to do that. But I think that when you see all of the systems and technology that we have stuffed into this building, that I think you will agree that we've done a lot of things, a lot of smart things to take back some of those energy dollars through conservation as opposed to any other methodology. Thank you very much.